Hello and welcome back to yet another video on the Alejandro Hernandez podcast. These are going to be my official top 10 teams in the NFL after week 10. I apologize for the release of this video. I'm releasing it later in the week because I did release my Brian Daboll video on my thoughts on the Giants firing him, so that kind of delayed the whole process of me releasing my top 10 teams and my picks for week 11. So without further ado, let's get into this top 10. And coming in at number 10, I'm going to have the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to put them in my top 10. Actually, I'm going to have two teams that I previously did not have in the top 10 weeks prior. Into this week's top 10, I'm going to be taking two teams out. So two new additional teams and two teams that are going to be removed from my top 10 after week 10. And this first team that's going to be added in is going to be the Chargers. And mainly it has to do with Justin Herbert. This man deserves all the respect in the world for how he's playing this season. And I believe finally the talent of Justin Herbert is finally translating to wins. And that's definitely due to Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh finally brought some stability to this organization. He brought a winning culture to this organization. And they're overcoming injuries right now. They're overcoming a ton of injuries. Whether it's Amari Hampton, whether it was Khalil Mack earlier in the season. And now they're down both their tackles and Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater. And prior to the season starting, I thought the Chargers would miss the playoffs because they were going to have an injury-riddled season. They are having an injury-riddled season, and it's not mattering because Justin Herbert is just elevating the talent around him, and he's playing at a supremely high level right now. I think Justin Herbert right now is playing like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, and I believe it's going really unnoticed and unrecognized. Everyone's focusing on Drake May and Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, all those guys playing at a supremely high level, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and I feel like Herbert is not being mentioned in that conversation when I think he should be. He has the Chargers at 7-3 through 10 games, despite all their injuries, which I think is a major feat. He had a great performance on Sunday Night Football at home against the Steelers, and the Chargers team overall had a great performance. Their defense has been very underrated this season, and they're getting all their guys back. Hampton's going to come back after the bye week. So I think if Herbert can continue to play at this level, he has the weapons to get it done, and the defense continues to play at that level, this Chargers team could be a very dangerous team come playoff time. So I'm going to have the Chargers at number 10. Now coming in at number 9, let me remind you guys that this is not the standings. I'm going to have the 4-5 Baltimore Ravens as my second team included in my top 10 that was not previously in it. The Ravens are finally making their return to my top 10, I believe ever since week 3 or 4. That was the last time they were in my top 10. And they started out the season 1-5. However, they are on a heater. They have won 3 straight games. Their defense has been the major story, in my opinion, regardless of Lamar Jackson coming back, and he's been playing well, but we expect Lamar to play healthy. We all had skepticism of their defense because their defense was getting torched to begin the season, and now they're starting to turn things around. Against the Bears in their first game off the bye week, they allowed 16 points to Caleb Williams, and then the following week they allowed 6 points on Thursday night to the Dolphins, and then the following week, this past week, they allowed 19 points to the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy on the road and got multiple turnovers in all of those games. So this Ravens defense is back to playing great football. And on the other side of the ball, Lamar Jackson is one of the best touchdown to interception ratios of any quarterback of all time. He's playing great football. And if he continues to take care of the football and continues to win from the pocket, which is what he's done this season, I think that's a huge development for him as a quarterback. Usually he's used to winning with his legs and scrambling out of the pocket and making plays like that. But now he is strictly winning from the pocket. And that is huge for this team. That's going to be huge for this team come playoff time because the teams are going to try to take away his legs. They're going to try and take away Derrick Henry. And usually when they do that, he cracks under pressure. But if he has finally developed as a pure pocket passer, which he has showcased this season, then this Ravens team could have success come playoff time. So give major credit to John Harbaugh for willing this team back from a 1-5 record. They're right back in it for the AFC North. They're only one game back of Pittsburgh, and they only play really one big contender left on the rest of their schedule, and that is the Green Bay Packers. The rest of their schedule is a cakewalk. So the Ravens should run the table. They should win the AFC North this season like I predicted them to in the offseason. I didn't predict them to get off to this rocky start that they did, but they're right back in it, and they're going to be on a roll the rest of the season. I trust Lamar Jackson, I trust John Harbaugh, and I trust that this defense has turned things around post-bye week. So give me the Baltimore Ravens at my number 9 spot. Now coming in at number 8, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to stay in the exact same spot I had them in last week. And I think this is where they belong. They're 8-2. They're one of the best teams in the AFC. However, I still cannot have them above New England, Buffalo, and the Chiefs because when I think come playoff time, I just think those teams have the better quarterbacks. And I don't quite trust Daniel Jones yet in big spots. And he came through for them this week, but he did start the game rocky with 2 turnovers. He had an interception and a fumble. And if these turnovers continue to become a trend, then this Colts team is going to struggle against superior opponents. And I think that's going to happen next week. They're on the bye this week, but next week they play Kansas City. And I think that is going to be by far their toughest test this season. I expect the Chiefs to win that game because they have the better quarterback. I believe Steve Spagnuolo is going to cause Daniel Jones a lot of problems with his blitz packages. And I believe the Chiefs have the ability to shut down Jonathan Taylor, because the Chiefs have historically been a great run defense with Steve Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator. So I think the Chiefs have a formula to beat the Colts. And I think that also just the Colts in general, whenever they're not playing with a lead, that forces Daniel Jones to have to will them back into the game. We saw how Pittsburgh exposed that in their matchup against the Colts when they got multiple sacks and Daniel Jones multiple strip sacks and he started to crack under pressure. I still think that's a possibility when they play these upper echelon teams in the AFC. So that's really why I don't entirely trust the Colts yet. I need to see how they play against Kansas City in order for me to grade them properly, because I need to see them properly tested. And for that reason, I can't have them higher than 8. It's good that they got the win in Germany, and I think it's important to note that they were down 25-22, and Daniel Jones did get them back into the game with his arm. So that was encouraging to see, but I need to see him do it against a top-tier opponent like the Chiefs, like the Bills, or the Patriots. So for that reason, I'm going to keep the Colts at my number 8 spot in this power ranking. Now coming in at number 7, I'm going to have the Detroit Lions. I'm going to drop them 1 spot because I have to rise the New England Patriots way farther than I had them. I had them, I believe, at number 8 in my previous ranking. They're going to skyrocket up this ranking due to beating the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But the Lions are going to drop 1 spot, and it's nothing to do with their performance. They got a huge win against the Commanders, which I expected them to. They were huge favorites, and they took care of business, winning by 22 points, putting up 44 points on offense, and that's due in large part to Dan Campbell taking over the play calling duties, which I think is a huge sign. He's finally getting all of his pieces involved in the offense. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery finally split carries, and Jahmyr Gibbs is extremely efficient. Monty, I believe his efficiency will go up as the season goes along. They're going to get him more involved as the season goes along because they don't want Gibbs to have too much wear and tear. And then they're also in the pass game finally getting Jameson Williams involved. They didn't pay him 3 years, $82 million to just have him as a decoy. Dan Campbell is finally scheming up plays for him, and they're getting him the football along with Amon-Ra St. Brown, along with Sam Laporta. So this offense is very prolific. I still have a couple questions about their defense because they have been torched by good teams. They got torched by the Chiefs. Got 30 points put on them by the Chiefs. JJ McCarthy had 3 touchdowns on them. And then earlier on in the season, they did get beat by the Packers. So I still have some question marks about the Lions competing against the top teams in the NFL. They have struggled, and they've lost decisively to these teams, which is kind of concerning. So I need to see how they play against Philadelphia this week. That's going to be a huge test for them to go into Philly in prime time. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if they end up pulling that game out, but I am going to be picking the Eagles in that matchup because I think that Philadelphia is just better and that they're going to be able to cause Jared Goff some issues defensively with their pass rush. So for that reason, I'm going to have the Lions at number 7. I don't expect them to go into Philadelphia and win, which means that they just can't beat the best teams in the NFL, which are the Chiefs, the Eagles, and they can't even beat the Packers yet. So I need to see them beat the Packers as well in order for me to have them in my top 5. So the Lions still have more to prove to me in order for me to rank them higher. So that's why I'm going to keep them at number 7. They're still a very prolific offense. They're going to beat up on the bad opponents, but I need to see them compete and win against the best teams in the NFL for me to have them higher on this ranking. So that's why I'm going to keep them at number 7. Now coming in at number 6, I'm going to have the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're 5-4. They're coming off the bye week, and they have a huge test this week in Denver. And I'm sure you guys noticed that Denver is not in this power ranking. I removed them after their very disappointing performance on Thursday Night Football last week. I have no complaints about their defense, no complaints about their run game, no complaints about their offensive line. It is the quarterback play that is their biggest question in Denver, which is Bo Nix. So the Chiefs are negative, I believe, 3.5 or 4.5 favorites in Denver. So that's saying a lot. The Broncos are 8-2, and the Chiefs are 5-4, yet they're favored in Denver by, I think, 4.5 points. So that really goes to show why these power rankings cannot be based off the standings, because the Chiefs are by far the better team. They're the more battle-tested team, and I trust the Chiefs quarterback and coaching staff way more than I trust the Broncos coaching staff. So that's why I have the Chiefs way ahead of them in the power rankings. I have them at number 6. I'm going to have them a spot ahead of Detroit because they did beat Detroit head-to-head. However, they also did lose to the Bills head-to-head, so I cannot have them above Buffalo, and Buffalo does have the better record. So I trust the Bills more than I trust the Chiefs come playoff time because the Bills, I believe, have the better offense, when it comes to Josh Allen and James Cook in the run game, and the Bills also have the better formula to beat the Chiefs because the Bills' biggest weakness is that they can't stop the run, and Kansas City is not a running team. They really focus on their pass game in Buffalo. If the Chiefs can't exploit Buffalo's biggest weakness, then that's a huge advantage towards Buffalo. So that's why I have the Chiefs one spot below the Bills. So I'm going to have the Chiefs at number 6 and the Bills at number 5. And I'm going to have Buffalo at 5. I'm going to have to drop them for my number 1 spot. And I thought they were going to remain there the rest of the season. However, they just dropped a huge game in Miami. As 9.5-point favorites, they lost by 17 points. They got their ass handed to them by the Miami Dolphins. That was very shocking to see. I think I'm taking that performance with a grain of salt. I'm not really kind of panicking about that loss because they do come back home this week to play the Buccaneers, and I expect them to win that game. I'm not panicking on Buffalo despite losing to a division rival. It was in Miami. Those games can be tricky, and I think that Miami was able to exploit their biggest weakness, which is their run defense, and I think really their nightmare matchup in the playoffs would be the Colts because of Jonathan Taylor, and let's hope that they don't match up against the Colts. But I also have to rise the Patriots above the Bills because the Patriots beat the Bills head-to-head, and the Patriots are just playing way better football right now. So I have to keep Buffalo at number 5, and I have to rise the Patriots above them because at this moment in time, the Patriots are the best team in the AFC, and they have proven that by beating the Bills and by just dominating the rest of their opponents. And Buffalo, like in past years, has not been able to dominate their opponents like they have in the past. And they've dropped some very, very easy games. They dropped the Patriots game at -8.5. Then the following week, they dropped the Falcons game at -4.5. And then this week, they dropped it -9.5. So they've been huge favorites in every game that they've lost, which is, I guess, some cause for concern because these games will matter once the season comes to an end. Because if the Bills want the number 1 seed, they're going to have to start winning these layup games like the Patriots have won. The Patriots have won all of their layup games, and the Bills have not. And that's cause for concern because if Buffalo wants a real chance at winning the Super Bowl, they would want the number 1 seed. And right now, that's looking like that's going to belong to the Patriots. So for that reason, I'm going to have the Bills at 5 and the Chiefs at 6. Now, coming in at number 4, I'm going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. And I really don't know what to make of the Eagles, man. I picked them to beat Green Bay. They did beat Green Bay in Lambeau. And I'm encouraged by their defense, the way they played against Jordan Love and stifled that Packers offense. However, the Eagles offense is just so hard to watch. They are so hard to watch, and then obviously there was drama sparked once again with A.J. Brown, and they have a huge home game this week against the Lions, and I think they're going to win. Everyone kind of just doubts the Eagles because of the way they're winning games, but the fact of the matter is they're winning games. They're winning games, and just look at their track record this season. They started it off by beating Dallas on Thursday night. Then they beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. They beat the Buccaneers. They beat the Rams. So everyone's favorite contenders, they took them all down. They took every single one down, and I expect them to do it again this week. I don't think they're going to lay an egg offensively the way they did this past week in Green Bay at home against the Lions. I think it's going to be a way higher scoring game, and I think the Eagles' offense is finally going to get things right once again. You really don't know what offense you're getting week to week, but I think this week against the Lions, we're going to get a good Eagles offense that's going to operate well in the pass game. I think they're finally going to get A.J. Brown involved more consistently. They're going to get Devonta Smith involved, and I don't think they're going to – I think this game in particular against the Lions, with the way the Lions' run defense is playing, the Lions' run defense is one of the best in the NFL. I think the Eagles are going to have to win this game through the air with Jalen Hurts, and I think he's capable of doing that, and he's shown that he's capable of doing that in big spots. So I expect the Eagles to bounce back this week at home against the Lions. I'm going to have them at number 4 because I do believe right now the Rams are playing better football than them. So I'm going to have also Seattle. I haven't mentioned Seattle yet. I believe the Rams and the Seahawks are playing way better football right now than the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going to have the Eagles at 4. Now, coming in at number 3, I have to continue to rise the Seattle Seahawks. They're just playing insanely great football. They're blowing teams out. Like, it's not even close. And just the level of complementary football with this team is ridiculous. You have to give massive credit to the coaching staff. Mike Macdonald, as the head coach, has that defense playing lights out like I expected them to in the preseason. And then the offensive side of the ball, Clint Kubiak, has everything clicking with the Seattle offense. And honestly, they've overexceeded my expectations that I had for them. I had the Seahawks being the number 7 seed, just barely sneaking into the playoffs. And right now, they have a shot at the number 1 seed in the NFC. They're just playing insanely great football. However, in a head-to-head matchup like we have this week when they go to LA to play the Rams, I think the Rams are the better football team because I trust Sean McVay more than I trust Mike Macdonald, and I trust Matthew Stafford more than I trust Sam Darnold. and in a big spot. This is a heavyweight fight between the Seahawks and the Rams. This is potentially the NFC Championship game right here. And I lean Rams because of their history. Obviously, they've won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. They have the pieces offensively with Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, and Davante Adams. I'd just take the Rams team overall more than I'd take the Seahawks team. So for that reason, I can't have the Seahawks at my number one spot. And I'm going to keep them at 3 because Sam Darnold and JSN's connection is lethal. They're running the ball well with Charbonnet and K9. Their offensive line, I believe, is this team's biggest weakness, and I think the Rams have the ability to exploit that with their pass rush. And something that's going unnoticed is Sam Darnold is still quite turnover prone. He's a little bit turnover prone, and I think the Rams can exploit that, and a team in the playoffs will definitely exploit that. So I can't fully trust Seattle yet because Sam Darnold still has his turnover issues, and Matthew Stafford right now is playing MVP level football. So for that reason, I like the Rams more than the Seahawks, but still massive respect to Seattle. They are blowing teams out. They are playing great complementary football, and that deserves respect. So I'm going to have them at my number 3 spot. I'm going to rise them 2 spots than I had them the week prior. I had them at my number 5 spot. I'm rising them to the number 3 spot. So credit to Seattle. I'm going to have them at number 3. Now coming in at number 2, I'm going to have the New England Patriots. And I'm releasing this video after Thursday Night Football's win over the New York Jets, and they looked awesome. Drake May is just playing at a ridiculously high level right now. His poise in the pocket is incredible. And finally, TreVeyon Henderson, man, I've been proclaiming this all season. I've been waiting for this all season. I drafted him in all of my fantasy leagues. I knew that he had this breakout potential, and it took me 10 weeks to finally envision it and see it happen for real. And it took Ramondre Stevenson getting hurt. It took Terrell Jennings getting hurt. It took Antonio Gibson getting hurt for him to finally get his opportunity, and I think he's ran away with it. He's had 5 touchdowns in his past 2 games, over 200 total yards of offense in his past 2 games. His pass protection has massively improved, and he's a weapon out of the backfield as well in the receiving game. He has all the tools to be a top back in this league, and I'm so happy that the Patriots finally realized the talent that they selected in the second round, and they're utilizing him. So to go along with Drake May playing at an MVP level, they now have a very talented running back that they are finally utilizing. So this Patriots team, the sky's the limit, man. The sky is the limit for this Patriots team. I graded Mike Vrabel an A+ higher in the offseason, and they're over exceeding my expectations to the max. I knew that Mike Vrabel would turn this around quickly. I had the Patriots as a playoff team this season, like the Seahawks, scraping in as the number 7 seed. I did not expect this. This is insane. They're 9-2. They have the best record in all of football. They have the most wins in all of football. And Mike Vrabel has completely turned around the culture of this franchise. And the defense is playing at a supremely high level. They're the number 1 run defense in the entire league. So credit to New England. They're playing outstanding football. They deserve to be the number 2 team in the NFL. However, I cannot have them in my number 1 spot. I'm going to have my team representing the NFC that I had in the offseason, the Los Angeles Rams, as my number 1 team. This is going to be the Rams' first appearance as my top team in the NFL, and I'm just so happy to see Matthew Stafford playing the best ball of his life. He has a 20-0 touchdown to interception ratio over his past 6 games. He's one of the only quarterbacks ever, I believe, to have 3 straight games of 4 touchdowns and no interceptions in NFL history. He's playing at a supremely high level, and I mean, I think it was pretty easy to predict. I mean, look at the weapons he has to work with. Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, Kyren Williams, Blake Corum, Sean McVay has all these weapons to work with, and he is maximizing the full potential of this offense, and Matthew Stafford is just playing at an incredibly high level. And if the Rams continue to play at this level rest of season, then they're easily going to make the Super Bowl. I think it's not going to be close. I think they're by far playing the best football of any team. They have Matthew Stafford in the offense operating at this level, and on the other side of the ball, they have their young, talented defense playing their tails off. So it's just great complementary football, and they have championship pedigree with Sean McVay already having won a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford. So I think this team is poised to make a deep playoff run. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl and lose to the Bills. They could honestly win it now. I think they look far and away the best team in all of football right now, and I believe they're going to prove that once again this weekend when they host the Seattle Seahawks. And they finally made the one change I was begging them to make. They changed their kicker. They finally addressed their kicker position, and they did not miss a kick this season. Joshua Carty was the main Achilles heel of this team. He is the reason that they lost both their games this season. They finally addressed that position, and now I feel way more confident about the Rams' chances to go to the Super Bowl because I don't think they're going to shoot themselves in the foot like they have in their 2 losses. They finally have a reliable special teams. They did address that, and I trusted Sean McVay to address that. At least he knows what they need to do in order to win, and he's making that happen. And I think the Rams look far and away the best team in all of football right now. So that's why I'm going to have them at my number one spot. And that is going to be it for this video, and I will see you guys next time for when I release my Week 11 picks.